Mosaic or Palestinian covenant. Some say these are different, right? May not be different. There are maybe a slight, a renewal of Mosaic covenant happens in Deuteronomy 28. It's a renewal of the Mosaic covenant, maybe a little add here and there, but basically these are the same covenant, Mosaic covenant. Provisions of Mosaic covenant. Israel were to function as the kingdom of priests, right? God would rule Israel through a mediator and world through Israel. So when Bible say kingdom of priests, that means God is going to rule the world through Israel. That was the purpose, right? That is God's purpose. Let's look at Exodus now, 19, verse 4 to 6. Exodus chapter 19, verse 4 to 6.
You yourself have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. Now, if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all the nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to Israelites.
All right. So the idea is that they are going to be a priestly kingdom, Jewish people. They are going to be a cherished nation, that God is going to rule them with his mediator. God's representative will rule Israel, and Israel in the end will rule the whole world. All right. So we see Israel was to be a holy nation. That was the part of the covenant. Third, God would eventually effect the conditions necessary to ultimate fulfillment. God said, I will eventually bring the condition for this to be fulfilled. What are the conditions? Number one, Israel's heart will be changed. Right? Israel's hearts will be changed. Let's come to Deuteronomy chapter 30. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1 and 2. Let me read. So it shall be, when all of these things have come upon you, the blessing and the curse, and which I have said before you, you call them to mind in all nations where the Lord your God has banished you. And you return to the Lord your God and obey him with all your heart, soul, according to all that I have commanded you today, you and your sons. And verse 6. Moreover, the Lord your God will circumcise your heart, the heart of your descendants, to love the Lord your God with your heart and with your soul, in order that you may live. Verse 8. And you shall again obey the Lord, observe all his commandments, which I command you to do today. All right, so which is clear that yes, there will be change of heart for all people. All Israel will come with a changed heart. That was one of the provisions. Another provisions, right? They will be regathered from the nations. See, this is happening when? This is even in the wilderness journey. Prophecies were done, happened, right? God spoke through Moses that they will be regathered. God will bring them back. You will return. Israel will be restored to the promised land. If you look at verse 5, and the Lord your God will bring you into the land which your fathers possessed. You shall possess it. He will prosper you and multiply you more than your fathers. And Israel's enemies will be judged. 30 verse 7, you read, and the Lord your God will inflict all these curses on your enemies who persecute you. Israel will experience abundant prosperity. Verse 9, that the Lord your God will prosper you abundantly. So, if you look at Deuteronomy chapter 30, there you will see the provisions of this covenant, which is going to be very interesting. How God is going to. So this is part of Mosaic covenant, right? I'm going to give you this land. You will be scattered, but I will bring you back. Now, it is a characteristic. Let's look at the characteristics of the covenant. It is a binding suzerainty covenant. Remember that one. It was not a royal promissory covenant. It's not a unilateral. This is a binding. This is a bilateral. The inauguration of the covenant did not occur until a mutual oath was sworn. Mutual oath. Remember that one, right? Now we are in Deuteronomy. So let's look at Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 28. Can one of you please read?
Assemble to me all the elders of your tribes and your officers, that I may speak these words in their hearing, and call the heavens and the earth to witness against them.
Yes, because here you see that God is making, this is taking the oath, right? Let's go back to Exodus now. Exodus chapter 19. Exodus chapter 19, verse 8.
All the people answered together and said, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do. And Moses brought back the word of the people to the Lord.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to 24, verse 3.
Then the Moses came and recounted to the people all the words of the Lord and all the ordinances, and all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord has spoken, we will do.
We will do. So here, both parties were swearing into this agreement. Swearing into this agreement that, okay, God said, I am calling the witness of the heaven and the earth that I will do this. I will do this. And the other party, that is children of Israel, said, all what God has spoken, we will do. So that is a binding agreement. However, once the covenant was agreed to, God obliged himself to unilaterally guarantee the completion of the terms of the covenant, which is also true. So this is, first of all, a binding suzerainty covenant. Second, it is Israelites. This belongs to Jewish people. While the nation are affected by the covenant, they are not properly participants in the covenant. Other nations are not participants in this covenant. Israel alone enters into the covenant with her God. Third, it remains unfulfilled. Why? While Israel has experienced many covenant renewals, has pledged herself anew multiple times to the terms of the covenant, and has even seen partial restorations over the centuries, especially maybe time of Solomon, David and Solomon, she has never enjoyed the wholesale conversion central to this covenant, where we read, all Israel will be saved. Romans chapter 11, 26. Because this is the fulfillment of Deuteronomy chapter 30, that I will give you all of your descendants a new heart. That is going to happen, right, at the beginning of millennial kingdom, right, at the end of the tribulation period. God is going to save. God is going to save Israel, change the hearts of Israel. That is what we read. All right. So still it is not fulfilled. That a new heart for all people is not fulfilled. So we are yet to see Mosaic covenant to be fulfilled. We are yet to see Abrahamic covenant to be fulfilled. You see, Abrahamic covenant, is it fulfilled? No, it has to be fulfilled, we said, in the coming kingdom. And we are yet to see the fulfillment of Mosaic covenant. Now let's look at the fourth one here.
Pastor, the all will include everyone.
Yeah, the idea is that if you look at some other, I think it is the majority of Jewish people who are there, majority of Israel, because there are for sure, if you look at Ezekiel and Joel, and the New Testament, the 10 virgin, which means, yes, during the tribulation period, there are many rebellious, there would be some people, and God is going to cast them out. And what the idea is that when the kingdom begins, you will have Jewish people completely saved. Only they will be there. That is the idea. When the kingdom begins, only there is going to be Israel full of Jewish people who are saved. Everyone. But before that during the tribulation, was there a judgment? Yes, there is a judgment. And will God kill, God chastise, punish, send people to hell? Yes, it is also happens. But as the kingdom begins, everyone will be saved. Means it is only saved will be there, not unbelievers. Coming back to the next covenant, that is Davidic covenant, right? A Davidic covenant. A covenant that God made with David. There are provisions related to David, Solomon, and Israel, and for humanity. So Davidic covenant has God provisions for 4 group of people. Let's look at them. First of all, for provisions for David, God said, an everlasting dynasty. Let's go to the Davidic covenant and understand by reading 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel chapter 7. 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 11 and 12. Can one of you please read?
And have done ever since the time I appointed leaders over my people Israel. I will also give you rest from all your enemies. The Lord declares to you that the Lord himself will establish a house for you. When your days are over and you rest with your ancestors, I will raise up your offspring to succeed you, your own flesh and blood, and I will establish his kingdom.
All right. He will, and maybe verse 13 also. 13 also, just next verse.
He is the one who will build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever.
Yeah, I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. So what are we to say? What are we to understand? First of all, there will be an everlasting dynasty. Your own descendant, right? A king. You have in verse 16, and your house and your kingdom shall endure before me forever. So endure forever. So the word is used there forever. The Davidic dynasty Davidic dynasty will be forever, right? So there will be a king. And verse 16, we read, there will be an everlasting kingdom. Look at that one. Everlasting kingdom. Everlasting kingdom. Verse 16b. 16b. Verse
Your
6. Go
throne
ahead.
will be established forever.
Yes. Your kingdom, your throne shall be established forever. Right? So that means the idea is that there is going to be a land, right? A king, a land, and then number C, everlasting throne. That is in verse, of course, same verse 16. And your house and your kingdom will endure before me forever. Your throne shall be established. So throne, a right to rulership. So these are the main provisions for David, right? God has made a covenant with David that Davidic descendants are going to rule. Davidic descendants. Now for Solomon, because this covenant is connected to building the temple as well. Temple as well. All right. So verse 13. What do we read? Verse 13.
He is the one who will build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever.
Yeah. This is what we read, verse 12. When your days are complete, you lie down with your fathers. I will raise up your descendant after you. I will raise up a descendant. I will raise up a descendant. And raising up that descendant is talking about Solomon. Solomon, it's not you, but Solomon has the privilege of building a house. And it is Solomon who has an established kingdom. It is, remember I said it the other day, it's quite interesting, Solomon's kingdom. During the time of Solomon, he conquered all the land. May not have occupied, but it came under the authority of Solomon. And we see, if you carefully read, how various other kings come and respect Solomon, right? Which is in a way kind of prefigure, maybe a little prefigure of how things are going to be in the coming kingdom. And we know that there is unconditioned everlasting throne, unconditioned everlasting throne. Number D, a chastening short of the disannulment of the covenant with David. Now, let's look at verse, we already looked at verse 14. All right, let's look at verse 14, read it now. 7 verse 14 to 16. Let's read that one more time. 2 Samuel 7, 14.
I will be his father, and he will be my son. When he does wrong, I will
Look at that.
punish him with a
Yeah, go ahead.
with a rod wielded by men, with floggings inflicted by human hands.
15.
By my love, but my love will never be taken away from him, as I took it away from Saul, whom I removed from before you.
16.
Your house and your kingdom will endure forever before me. Your throne will be established forever.
Yeah. The idea is that even, yes, if these descendants do sin, I will punish, but I will keep my covenant with David. Even if they sin, I will punish, but I will keep my covenant with David. That is what happens. We read even Psalm 89, that God is going to, chastening short of the disannulment of the covenant with David. Yes, chastening will be there. Solomon is not promised a perpetual house. This anticipates the curse that was placed on Jeconiah and his seed in Jeremiah 22, verse 28 to 30. Solomon never promised a perpetual house. Why? Because God foresaw the sin of his descendants. And remember Jeconiah or Coniah, same person. Remember Coniah's curse. Remember that one we discussed. Apparently could not pass on kingship, but did pass along the throne legal title or right to rule to Jesus through Joseph. Right? So you understand what happened, right? Matthew 1, Luke 3. Why different genealogy? Why different genealogy? You understand why it is, because I already have explained. Solomon only has the right to rule, but in Jeremiah, we read in chapter 22 that one of the sons of Jeremiah, that is Jeconiah, has been cursed. That said, none of your descendants will rule Davidic throne, from Davidic throne, none. So what happened? Yes, the right to rule comes through Solomon, but Solomon's line is cursed, right? So what happened? What do you read? In Luke chapter 3, you have a second genealogy. In the second genealogy, you see Mary is coming not from Solomon, but from Nathan, and another son of David. And that's, so what happened? When Mary married Joseph, only Joseph had the legal right to marry, but that line was cursed. Whereas Mary's line doesn't have the legal right to rule. But it was not a cursed line of David. So Mary's genealogy is not a cursed one because it comes from Nathan. Jesus was born for Mary, and therefore he is the son of David without a royal title. Whereas Joseph in Matthew chapter 1 has the right to rule, but it is cursed line. And that means Joseph's biological son cannot rule on the throne of David because it is cursed. So what happened? Jesus, who is Mary's son, who is in the line of David through Nathan, without a curse, but without also a ruling right. Now, when Mary married Joseph, automatically the legal right to rule passed on to Jesus, and thus Jesus overcame the Jeconiah's curse. All right, so that's something I have explained already. That's the reason I'm not going in detail. This one, right? Now, what is for Israel? For Israel, the permanent rest in the land of promise. Yes, Israel, as it is promised, will have the land. For humanity, David describes this covenant as describing the custom of men in the distant future. What Christ described this as a charter for humanity, right? What is the point? Because verse 17, 2 Samuel chapter 7 verse 19, 7 verse 19 says, and yet this was insignificant in thine eyes, Lord God, for thou hast spoken also of the house of thy servant concerning the distant future, and this is the custom of man, maybe a charter for humanity. All nations will profit from this eternal arrangement, not just Israel. All nations will be blessed through Israel. Israel is the medium of blessing in the coming kingdom. Characteristics: it is an unconditional promissory covenant, right? It is unconditional. It is not like a Mosaic covenant. While there was condition provision of the chastisements in the covenant, the throne was promised to Solomon, and the kingdom, as promised to David, were explicitly described as irrevocable. Second, it is Israelite. It touches David, his literal immediate seed, his literal distant seed, right? Christ. It also involves a land for people of Israel, my people Israel. Third, this is eternal. This is eternal. The kingdom, that language is kingdom forever. Kingdom forever. Fourth, while specific elements respecting David and Solomon were fulfilled literally and historically, yes, the covenant remains open-ended. Covenant theologians regard Davidic kingdom as ongoing since coming of Christ, and a new realm is either hearts of individual believers or the church collectively. That is what covenant theologians interpret. They say the Davidic kingdom is already there. Okay, Davidic kingdom is already there. We are Israel. Davidic kingdom is already there. We are Israel. Christ rules us. So it is going on. That's what covenant theologians believe. Progressive dispensation regard the kingdom as being fulfilled in progressive stages. Christ established the kingdom in Gospels, rules from the right hand of the Father presently, but will have his rule with the establishment of the millennial kingdom. So they would say, yeah, already began, but not fully established. Already, but not yet. That's what progressive dispensation would say. But traditional dispensation regard the kingdom as having offered, rejected, and temporarily suspended. Right? Jesus Christ came, promised the kingdom. Jewish people rejected, therefore it is suspended. It will be resumed at the second coming and establishment of the millennial kingdom. Millennial kingdom. Right? That's how traditional dispensationalists see this one. The final view best answers the concerns below. A rest of the covenant was fulfilled literally and historically. Yes, David, right? But David and Solomon understood the covenant literally. The prophets understood covenant literally. Individual Israelites understood covenant literally. Argument from present form of the kingdom rest only on 40 exegesis of few verses. We will discuss that later. 40 exegesis. So I am saying the traditional dispensationalist understanding that the Davidic kingdom, where Jesus will rule from Jerusalem, that mediatorial kingdom has not been established at all. It offered in the gospel, but they rejected, and therefore it is suspended, right? Suspended. It will begin when Christ comes back for the second time. All right. So that is what we need to understand concerning Davidic covenant. Today we looked at two covenants, Mosaic covenant and Davidic covenant. Right now we need to look at one more covenant, that is new covenant, which is very troublesome, problematic, that we will discuss in the next class.